Welcome to the Kiwi Mana Bay. This is episode 144 of our beekeeping show. Disappointment all round. But before we go ahead, we have to advise that this show comes with a warning.
If you thought that French is the sexiest accent in the world, think again.
Well, we all have our favorite accents.
But which country has the sexiest way of speaking? You're in luck because somebody did a study to find out. Readers of the international travel site The Big Seven voted and decided the people of New Zealand have the sexiest accent.
Well, you heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, guys. Wow, I wonder why we get any work done. Okay, so that speaks for itself. Moving along, Gary.
We are Gary.
And Margaret.
We are Kiwi Mana, and Kiwi Mana are beekeepers from the hills of the Waitaki Ranges on the wild west coast of Auckland in the North Island of New Zealand.
Yes, we build and sell beekeeping equipment and bees, provide beekeeper services and education.
And in this episode, we talk about disappointment, both Northland beekeepers and ApiNZ.
Are they both disappointed with each other?
We'll have to wait and see, Margaret.
Okay.
And we have roving reporters checking in from England, United States of America, and Canada.
Awesome.
And the show notes for this podcast are kiwi.bz/144. And what does it mean to be an organic beekeeper?
Yes, you asked me this question a lot, and I think that
every month,
every show, and it's because it's important to understand that there's a lot of effort that goes into being organic or a natural beekeeper. And as we come into the end of bee season 2018, our goal is to reflect about our success and failures. I analysed where issues arose and how to prevent them next season. And with 3 hive failures already before winter, we know that organic beekeeping must be all about timing. Not keeping to a strict schedule and actually doing the treatments, we realise that losing hives is a result if we don't do that. With winter here, today is the 1st of June here over in where we are, and as we sit here to start recording, a hail shower just came through, Dale?
Yes, there's a lot of heavy rain here on the first day of winter, isn't it?
Yeah, so with winter, it's our time to now regroup and contemplate the coming spring and prepare accordingly. So for us, firstly, it's the reflection, then secondly, regrouping, and then a lot of hot chocolate in front of the fire.
I don't know about hot chocolate. It's full of sugar.
Oh, I see. As you can tell, Gary's avoiding sugar. But moving along.
Trying my best.
Okay, so what we're working on now is cleaning up the woodware, getting rid of all the hadit stuff that's, just it's been a bit neglected or it's too old, and we just want to clean out the apiary and re-wax the frames that we can and get them ready and do a declutter, which has been an ongoing thing for a couple of years, but we're finally getting more and more traction on that, so it's awesome. And that will include several trips to the tip or the rubbish dump.
So how are we preparing for what's coming for the bees in these winter months?
While in winter, we will be looking at preparing for our spring jobs. So working out how many splits we want to achieve and building the gear to fill that work, and looking at orders that we've had for colonies and see what we need to produce. And then, behind all that is so that we don't have to panic, and if you don't plan accordingly, then it often can lead to panic, and then you can make rush decisions that might not be the right decisions. And so taking action while we're in winter and we have a bit of quiet, time, as it were, we should be well and truly ready for spring. So preparation is the key. I think it's really been hard yakka this season, to be honest. There's been those losses, but just like you guys, we will carry on, We know that that was because of our fault. Well, my fault really, because just being unwell meant that I should have really got someone in to help do the hives for me. And I didn't do that, so I think it's important to look at where you're at when you're analysing when things go wrong and try and change those actions. So, but the rest are ticking on, and they've been getting heavy mite load heavy drops, so that's a good sign. And I double dosed them again at the weekend just gone, and there was mite drop. So they'll be getting done again this week until I get a really low count on all the hives. So I'll just continue double dosing with oxalic acid until they're at a level where I feel confident to just go back to fortnightly treatments.
Yes, I mean, this year we've changed a lot, haven't we? Because my hours of work got changed, so I've have been withdrawing a bit from the beekeeping stuff, so I can't really do stuff in the afternoons anymore like I used to be able to.
It has made a difference, and, that's just the way it is. So you just respond to the needs and then work out what you can achieve. So if I find that I just can't manage something, I change what I do. I mean, a few seasons ago we had 30 colonies here, but I just couldn't manage them all. So I reduced down to, 3, and then I built up last season to have more. So I think that it's going to be ever-changing, don't you think?
Yeah, and it's got to be achievable. Like, if you've got 30 hives, it can be like a full-time job, can't it?
Yeah, so we've going to take the bees from the education apiary and bring them back here after I've checked them for disease. If they're still alive, they'll come here. Even so, we'll clear that apiary out, and then we'll just reassess for next season as to how much, if we're going to put some more bees there. But, that's negotiating with the landowner as well. So that's another part of it, that, sometimes you have things outside of your control that you can't always predict. We're determined to show that organic is the way to save honeybees and help them develop their cleaning behaviour. So that will help further in having them surviving genetics and continue to breed off them.
Yes, indeed. And what's our mission?
Our mission, Gary, is to save bees one hive at a time by helping you keep honeybees alive and not contribute to some of the issues that they're facing because of some of the, chemicals. So even though we've had losses, these colonies that are still here are strong and they're looking good, and time will tell, really.
Yes, indeed. Well, as I said before, it's winter here in New Zealand. But what's happening around the world? Let's hear from our Kiwi mana roving reporters. This week we hear from North Carolina, Kingston, British Columbia and North Hampshire. And we start this week in North Carolina.
So we have Avery from Wild Dragon Honeybee Farm in North Carolina. Avery is 16 years old and keeps bees with her parents and older brother. Let's hear from Avery.
Hello, Kiwi mana. Avery here, reporting from Rascals Apiary in northeastern North Carolina. It's been really warm over here, around the 90s or 30s in Celsius. Tulip poplar is blooming strong, as well as honeysuckle, and gallbush should be popping up here soon as well. The flow is pretty strong, but it is getting weaker. Beekeepers should be watching their hives since swarms are still happening, although they're less frequent now. And beekeepers should watch their hives, make sure that they don't need another box. The bees are booming. It's the annual baby boom. That queen should be laying egg after egg after egg. She's a little older and less efficient than she used to be. You might think about replacing her. Just be sure to weigh the pros and cons before crushing that little girl. If you have caught a swarm, be sure to feed it if it needs it. Just because it isn't weak right now doesn't mean it will thrive. May need a little babying for the first year. Bees are loving the warmth almost as much as we are. For them, it means more food. For us, it means more sleep. That's all for today, Kiwi mana. Thank you.
Wow, and the flow's already slowing down. It just feels like they're just getting started.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And my skin crawled when she said about crushing queens. So, that's not something we do at all here. We let the bees supersede if they need to. And crushing queens, I think using genetics ongoing, the bees will know when to do that.
Yeah, but if the queen's not working and you want to replace with a new queen, you do have to do that, don't we? And I've done that.
I've never had to do that. I only ever killed one queen, and that was this season because she was a drone-laying queen and she was not well at all in terms of her physical body. She was a bit injured. So I think that, yeah, obviously you've got to keep records on your queens, but, it's a very old habit to go and crush queens, and it's a commercial practice that has been sort of, I don't know when it started, when people decided that that was the way to do it. I think older queens, especially in their second year, can be such awesome producers of everything, brood, honey, the whole shebang. So, yeah, I agree, like Avery said, to just assess whether that's necessary.
Okay, now we're going to head north to Ontario in Canada, and we hear from Yolanda from Yoli Bear's Beekeeping Journal. And she last show we heard from her, she'd lost all her bees, and she's moving to spring. So let's see what's happening with Yoli.
Hello, Gary and Margaret. Hello, Kiwi Mana friends. It's Yoli Bear, keeping bees near Kingston, Ontario, Canada. I have great news for you. I got my bees this weekend. Woo-hoo. It was pouring rain on Saturday. Saturday bee pickup day. Awesome. It rained all day, and I was beginning to get concerned that maybe I had to delay pickup day for another day. So I called and I said, hey guys, I'm supposed to be picking up bees today. Are you guys still giving bees in this weather? They're like, well, yeah, there are people here picking up bees already. Come on over. I'm like, oh, great. So drove over there, picked up my bees. They had them covered, so they weren't getting wet in the rain. And they would actually help you load the bees in the car. They're nukes, so they came in cute little nuke boxes. And so all you had to do was pick up the nuke box and put it in the trunk of your car, or however you were going to transport them. I transported mine in the trunk, and I covered them with mosquito netting so that they wouldn't get all crazy in the trunk. So drove them back to their new home, and I placed the nuke boxes right beside the hive that they were going to be installed in. And I left because bee pickup was 7 o'clock in the evening. By the time I got home to where I was going to set them up, it was 10 in the night. And it was pitch black, couldn't see anything. So I just walked them to their hive stand, put them beside the hives, and left. So returned early the next morning, and surprise, surprise, they were hard at work. It was a beautiful day. Sunday morning was clear. The sun was shining. It was a warm day. It was perfect. And they had already found pollen and nectar and was bringing it in abundance. I was so happy they had already settled in. And so bee pickup day went so well. I installed the bees in the hive. They were happy to get some more space because they were a little crowded in there. They give you a lot of bees in that box. And so I'm very happy to start my beekeeping season. Yay! Over to you, Gary and Margaret.
Fantastic.
Oh, it's so exciting to get bees, and bring them home. And, congratulations on your new little family there, Yoli. And, awesome.
Yeah, and you did the right thing by leaving them there at 10 o'clock at night. There's no way you would open up a nuke and move it to a hive at night time, eh?
Yeah, I usually leave the nuke there for about a week just to let them get settled. But, like Yoli did, is the next day when it's a good day and they're settling, yeah, I would think that that's a good opportunity to put them in. But generally what we do is we leave them for a few days, at least a week, and just let them get really used to it.
Yeah, but just make sure that they're not really, if they're as full as Yoli was saying, you might want to get them to a box sooner than later, eh?
That's a really good point. Yeah, they can get hot in those nuke boxes, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. Or they could even, I don't know if they're scone, they might do. It's unlikely.
Some people leave them too long and then their bees swarm because the nuke is so full, and the result is that the bees just bugger off, eh?
Absolutely. And I think nukes are a better way to go, Yoli, because if you get packages, they tend to have a high failure rate. I've heard. We don't get them in New Zealand, but I've heard from a lot of people that packages tend to not last as long because the queen and the bees aren't really family, are they?
Yeah, I think there's a few issues that could go on with packages, but most people are reputable, and I think if there's any issues, just get back in touch with them. Yeah, that's all you can really do, but I like getting a working colony. I think it's really important. And the nukes that we get, they're all the breeder makes sure that they're a working colony before he lets them go.
Okay, now we're going to move across the
to where, Gary?
We're going to go across the west coast of Canada to British Columbia. So this is the complete opposite of where Yoli's keeping bees.
So this is Matt from Matt's Beekeeping, and he's a beekeeper from Canada's North Okanagan Valley. Please excuse me if I've pronounced that wrong, in British Columbia. And he has a fantastic YouTube channel all about his learnings, misadventures and triumphs with chemical-free beekeepers.
Yeah, and that's where we discovered Matt, and he's agreed to come on and become a roving reporter, so that's awesome.
We're very excited to have him come on board, so welcome, Matt. So let's hear from Matt.
Hello, Margaret, Gary, and all the Q Man Buzz listeners. This is Matt Roth reporting from beautiful Vernon, British Columbia, Canada. For the weather this week, we've had highs of 32 degrees Celsius and lows of 9 at night. We have had a perfect spring this year, with plenty of clear, sunny flying days. The cherry, peach, and plum trees have finished with their blossoms, and the apple trees have just started. I also noticed today that our blueberry bushes have started with their little flowers. And with all the wildflowers that we have blooming here at the moment, our bees have a huge variety of nectar and pollen sources to choose from. With our beekeeping right now, we are definitely into our swarm season, as I just rescued a swarm from a tree 2 days ago. But in my apiary, I already did my swarm prevention method 18 days ago. What I do is I artificially swarm the queen with a few frames of brood and a bunch of nurse bees into a nucleus hive. And this forces the old hive to make a new queen and have a brood break. So this week I will not be going in to inspect those parent colonies. Right now, the new queens should be hatched and getting ready for their mating flights or on their mating flights, so I don't want to interrupt that process. What I will do is I will check in on them in about 14 days, and by that time I should be able to tell if she was mated properly. I will be inspecting those new nucleus colonies that I made, just to make sure that the queen survived the move and is still laying healthy and has enough room to keep developing her brood nest. In closing, I do want to thank you, Gary and Margaret, for your excellent podcast. I really enjoy listening to it. Keep up the good work, and back to you.
Cool bananas. I think it's interesting when you hear about all the different ways people grow their bees. And just a piece of advice is that whenever you go to do your beekeeping in this sense, in splits and creating nukes, just make sure that the colony is very low on mite before you start doing that, because then it helps the colony that's growing the new queen. They can just focus on things they need to rather than dealing with any issues with varroa. So try to knock them down completely. Gosh, it's raining out there like crazy, isn't it?
I know, it's great, isn't it?
Okay, so are we heading east now?
Well, yeah, we are. Yeah, thanks, Matt, for your thanks, and we thank you for your YouTube channel. It's awesome, and we really appreciate your YouTube channel, and we've enjoyed it, eh?
Absolutely.
And Matt's the guy with the leaning fence. Remember that?
I don't know if I remember that one. What's happened with the fence?
I think the foundations have subsided. He's got to work on that over summer.
Oh, no. These things do happen, and gosh, that rain is really heavy.
Well, hopefully you can't hear it on the mic, but we'll press on.
We'll press on. So if you hear that noise, guys, it's rain and lots of it. Very heavy.
And last night we had a lot of lightning strikes, didn't we? And Snow, our dog, was very upset about it all.
Yeah, she was like shaking and breathing heavily. She was going mental, but she's okay. She's just sitting there looking out the window watching the rain fall now.
That's right. So now we're flying over Russia.
Okay,
and we're heading east.
East?
Yeah,
okay.
We're going to end up in North Hampshire.
So, Joe is crazy for anything crawly because he doesn't think they're creepy. Nothing goes in his hives but bees and fingers. So it's his 9th season of being treatment-free.
That's awesome. everyone's dream, isn't it, to be treatment-free?
Everyone's dream to be treatment-free. So I think that listening to him is interesting stuff because, we all want this.
Yeah, and you can follow Joe on the Twitters at BizzleBugs. And he's just had but recently had a new baby. So they're all getting used to...
no sleep?
No, I think they're over that now, but we'll have to see. Okay, let's hear from Joe.
Awesome.
Hi guys, it's Joe Ibbotson from Northamptonshire here. Just thought I'd be your roving reporter. Well, winter's been and gone. Spring is well and truly kicked in. The sun has been out for the past couple of days. It's been absolutely marvellous. Swarms are presenting themselves here and there around the country. I've seen a few people collecting them and posting their pictures. I haven't seen any around here yet, although I'm sure there might have been one or two knocking around. So as far as beekeeping goes, that's going to be something to look out for because the oilseed rape is in full flow at the moment. And if you want to help reduce your swarming, make sure you've got plenty of room for the nectar to come in. I think the rule of thumb is nectar takes up 3 times as much room as honey, so you don't want to clog up your brood nest and induce a bit more swarming that way. Otherwise, I think most people have got everything out of the way. There's been the checks, all the first checks of the colonies have been done so far this year. And I think people are just preparing for the nicer weather and the spring and early summer flows to come in. Hopefully, we'll have a season like last year, nice and warm. In the UK it was, but with maybe a little less drought. That would be better for us, because if you ain't got any water, you ain't got any nectar. What else can I say? Well, as far as the treatment-free thing goes, we've obviously not lost any colonies this year. And we've done a talk with our friend Clive Hudson from the Llyn and Ifynith Beekeeping Association in Wales at the Bibber Conference and the Welsh Beekeeping Association Conference. And we recently gave a talk at the Ipswich Beekeepers Association as well with regards to our experiences, treatment-free beekeeping. And I'm quite astonished, actually, at how many non-treating beekeepers there are in the UK. This could potentially be an avenue for people to follow and for the beekeeping associations to lend more support. There's been a lot of science released, and I think there could be some more backing of this. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great season. It's looking up here. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, treatment-free is something that we all aspire to, I hope, one day.
Yes, it would be awesome.
Yeah, it's hard to do when you've got commercial people around you and
who are using chemicals. And truly what he's saying is that it would be great if they could go that way. And if that happens, man, that would be awesome.
Yeah, and great to see you speaking at some conferences. There's a lot of conferences coming up in New Zealand this next couple of months, aren't they?
Yeah, now winter's here. We have our the national conference, don't we?
We do, and it's in Rotorua this year, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's some smaller meetings going on. And, we might attend if we can. But, I think interesting how, the space thing is. Space management is one of the things, and we're not talking about going out on a shuttle over to the moon.
No.
We're talking about space management in terms of nectar flow.
Yes, you've got to anticipate when the flow's starting, don't you?
Yeah, I think that, one of the things, if you get a nuke colony and then they're busy, the first thing they do in spring is just build up lots of population because they want lots of people to collect, food. And then, so their first goal is breeding and population increase. Then when you have a nuke, you need to put it into a bigger box. And I usually wait till the box is pretty full and they start drawing on the 2 end frames, and then I will add a new box on the top. We're talking Langstroth hive boxes, and then I just integrate the bottom box by taking the 2 end frames out, putting them into the middle of the second box, and then putting empty frames on the bottom box so that the girls can start drawing that. And this is the time of the year to encourage as much drawing as possible and making sure, as Joe said, that there is room for brood because you don't want your bees to leave.
No, and it's interesting to see that he hasn't had any swarms yet. So we're going to head south now to Hampshire in England, which is near the coast. It's near the Isle of Wight, isn't it? So that's sort of that coast.
Well, yours, is it near the coast?
It is near the coast.
Well, then that's awesome.
Remember we went down to the New Forest? It's near there.
Oh, yeah, I did. That was great. We had a good time. We were doing geocaching back then, weren't we? With our friends, Joe and Pete.
So we're going to hear from Chris from Three Hares Honey in Hampshire, England. And Chris is a beekeeper and a vet from Three Hares Honey. And for exceptional raw honey from rural Hampshire, check out his website, which the link will be in the show notes at kiwi.bz/144. Let's hear from Chris.
Awesome.
Hello, Gary and Margaret and beekeeping friends from around the world. It's Chris Palgrave here from Three Hares Honey in Hampshire in southern England. Well, since we spoke last, it has been seriously swarmy here. I've been out and collected at least 10 swarms, and I know our local association has also been very busy. I think it's something to do with the really changeable weather we've been having. Periods of nice warm sunshine mixed with cold wind and rain. And I suspect during those cold and wet periods the bees are sitting in the hive with nothing better to do than to plan on how they're going to make their great escape. And then when the sun finally does come out, off they go before the beekeeper has a chance to do anything about it. Despite all the swarming, it's actually been a pretty good spring for most beekeepers. The oilseed rape has almost finished flowering, and many of us have started extracting the honey before it granulates in the comb. On the subject of swarm control, I've just performed my first cut-down split on one of my colonies, both to prevent swarming but also because I like to make some cut-comb honey. This is my version of a technique which has been described in a range of older books, but also mentioned on the 5 Apple Farm podcast by Lee, the Michael Bush website, and also in the Apiarist blog from Scotland. It basically involves splitting your colony in two and leaving the sealed brood on the original site and removing their queen, eggs, and open brood into a separate hive, which is placed immediately next to or behind the original hive, but facing in the opposite direction. The foraging bees will return to the original location, where they'll find sealed brood but no mouths to feed, and nothing to stop them from getting on with the important business of drawing comb and storing honey. The other hive will gradually return to full strength over the next few weeks. These can either be managed as 2 completely separate colonies, or could be reunited to make one strong colony going through the winter. But I don't want you to think that everything always runs smoothly at Three Hares Honey. Only yesterday I opened a hive to place on a clearer board to remove the bees from the supers ready for extraction, only to find the queen had somehow squeezed through the queen excluder and happily laid in about 3 boxes worth of frames. She's now back down in the bottom box where she should be, but I've got to wait for all that brood to hatch out before I can do anything else. Anyway, I think that's all my news for now, and I hope your beekeeping season is going well, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thanks, Chris. That's awesome. So there are 10, yeah, 10 swarms, a bit different than Joe.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think there's a lot of, microclimates in all these different areas that kick in sort of impact on what the bee's behaviour is, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's a bit further south than Joe as well, so that's probably maybe having a slight effect. And maybe they're closer to the coast, they get those sea breezes or something. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe a bit cooler, I'm not sure. But I think that it's great to hear about that different way of doing a split, as it were.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've misinvestigated that, eh?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because honey production, I think when you keep your older queen, because we usually split and move the older queen away, and she's the one that's got the cap brood because she needs that foraging community. And where the original position of the hive was, that's where we leave them to raise the new queen. And with that, we mostly put the younger brood in there. So, it can be very confusing.
Absolutely. And the queen moving up, that I've heard of that happen. It's happened to me a few times. It's annoying.
To me, we just make sure they've got 2 brood boxes when we come into spring. So we encourage her basically to move up in those 2 boxes, up and down there and lay, so that when we do our split, we've got 2 boxes so we can do 50-50, as it were. But, that's interesting, that's for sure, and it sounds like things are moving along for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a special shout-out to one of our roving reporters from Calgary in Canada, Ron Mitchka. He's recovering from emergency surgery. So get well soon, Ron. We're thinking of you guys and hope your recovery is going well.
Yeah, we're sending all our love and Kiwi hugs and hope that you're well on the road to recovery.
Okay, we've got some roving reporters here from emails.
Emails, yeah. We've got an email here from Jessie from Texas in the US of A. And he says, "Hi again, Jesse from Texas in the USA. It seems strange to me when you say your winter is in June. Here in Texas, it starts in October and it can still get in the 80s by September. My bees were bringing in pollen. Where they were getting it from, I have no clue. It can freeze today and be 70 tomorrow. So it is May here and temperature is to be around 80 today." He says, "I split 2 hives 2 weeks ago and already they have almost doubled in size. Lots of wildflowers in bloom and hope all goes well with your bees and glad to hear Margaret is doing better."
Awesome. Thanks, Jesse.
Thanks, Jesse. That's awesome. Awesome.
And we got an email from Bruce in New South Wales. He's saying, I was wintering hives and found one absolutely rotten with African hive beetles. Ooh.
Yeah.
Lovely and warm over here on the West Island. By the way, 18 degrees today. Interesting, only have a handful of hives at my most productive but aggro hive, known as Cranky Pants, had only one AHB, which is African hive beetle, that I could find. Oh, so cranky bees obviously don't put up with hive beetles.
Yeah. I made a response to Bruce and said that generally when they're aggro, there's, my thoughts are that it could be because of that threat from the hive beetle, so they're on alert. And it also could be because they're thirsty.
Could be. Well, thanks, Bruce and Jesse, for your email roving reports. Do you want to be a roving reporter?
Yes, you do.
It would be awesome if you could help create the buzz by being part of the show, reporting in from your location while in the field. If so, could you record a quick update, 1 to 2 minutes of your local weather conditions and what people should be doing with your bees in your area, and email that to gary@kiwimana.co.nz, or there's a link there to the speak pipe on the show notes page.
Awesome, and we look forward to hearing from new folks as well, and those of you who didn't have time to do a report, we look forward to hearing from you next time. Cheers, guys.
Beekeeping news you can use. Kane, first up, devastated. Northland manuka honey producers seek chemical markers definition review from MPI. That's the Ministry of Primary Industries for anyone outside New Zealand. So what's this about?
Some of the best manuka honey in the country is failing the government's proposed new testing standards, which are designed to protect the market from fake products.
Well, this work was being conducted by MPI, and the article's almost like saying, is what they're doing harming the New Zealand beekeeping manuka producers up in Northland and international marketing of manuka honey to the world? Plus, it will probably be creating confusion for local producers and consumers, as well as inhibiting some of the economic growth they have been experiencing. And that's in some of the impoverished areas where beekeeping has become a viable business choice for them and their families. And what does the article say, Gary?
The legal definition of manuka honey could change if new evidence shows the chemical makeup of the honey is different in Northland, MPI says. About 80 beekeepers and honey producers from Auckland to Kaitaia turned up to challenge MPI scientists at a hui yesterday at Aotearoa Marae near Kaikoui. They believe the definition established to protect New Zealand manuka brand overseas fails to take into account regional variations in the chemical makeup of the honey.
Okay, so with this change, it has meant some impact for them, and they also talk about how what was standard before meant that their honey was considered good.
So what's basically happened is they defined a standard for manuka honey, which includes 5 different factors, doesn't it? And one of the factors is a certain chemical that up north, that chemical is less than other areas. Is that right?
I think so. And so that means that the new way of checking it, according to the Northland honey producers, the MPI definition is devastating an industry that was beginning to lift many far north Maori out of poverty. So by changing the definitions or markers, it has impacted on them. And What did you get out of this article, Gary?
Well, obviously the standard doesn't take into regional differences. I think that maybe they need to revisit the standard and say, well, we didn't realise this, and I think they say they got samples from all over the country, but I don't know, maybe there's differences in different climates, different plants. So it would be devastating if they determine that Northland can't produce honey, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think that would be an impact for them locally, and they say that with this change it could harm exports to Japan, which is their largest market. That is, the percentages they talk about is about 70% of previous honey was considered as manuka, but that's changing with this new look that the MPI are doing. So there's arguments that, they are arbitrarily changing things for their reasons, but not definitely for the people, the beekeepers, the producers. I
think beekeepers did have a say in these standards, didn't they, back in the time? But I think the problem is these standards are becoming law now after the season's over. So people are discovering that these standards are not helping them, isn't it?
Well, I think when you get honey from, like, say, down in the bottom of the North Island, and then you get honey from the top of the bottom of the South Island, and then you get honey from the top of the North Island, then you get honey in the middle of the islands, of both islands, and you mix them all together, that's going to dilute whatever each area has. So I think when they're doing that, that's just going to make more problems. So I think it may require that each area is defined perhaps, and then each area is checked individually and independently, and then not making arbitrary changes, for the heck of it.
I think the problem is that the industry couldn't make up their mind, could they, about what was the standard for manuka honey?
Yeah, there's a lot of arguing going on, but I think a national definition, from this article is not a local definition. So perhaps they do need to, consider, areas for what they're producing in those areas.
And what did MPI say about this?
Well, they were keen to hear from beekeepers who believed that they had been adversely affected by the new definition. So get in touch with MPI, guys, and don't let this go unchallenged.
No, absolutely. And did we get any feedback about this?
Yeah, we got some feedback. Norman Double thinks that maybe there's another agenda here, possibly.
Conspiracy.
Yeah. And Shane Stanners says, Norman Double, like the creation of a monopoly in the industry. Could well be.
Cara Lassane Belcher, we've heard from her a few times, eh?
Yeah.
That's pretty rough and unfair for those affected, having their livelihood taken away. Hope MPI does the right by them and sorts it out. Me too.
Me too. And John Thompson said, sad, when someone sets regulations and standards that only takes into consideration of one region, I hope that gets clarified quickly. Too many jobs and lost exports are on the line for Northland manuka honey.
Absolutely, and if you're a producer of manuka honey up north, get in touch because we'd like to talk to you. Maybe have an interview with someone up there and discuss this further.
Give us a roving report about what's going on up there. That'll be awesome.
Absolutely,
easy to do, eh, Gary?
Indeed. Okay, the next story. ApiNZ is disappointed by beekeepers voting on the levy in New Zealand. And MPI are one of the industry organisations. One of two. Is it two now?
Yes.
We've got New Zealand Beekeeping and them. Probably get a third soon. Who knows?
Who knows?
Can't we all get along, folks? I guess different opinions.
That's right. And ApiNZ disappointed by beekeepers. They vote on the levy in New Zealand. Well, disappointed because they couldn't get it passed, and it's too bad. The beekeeper has spoken. And maybe some food for thought on how they, that's ApiNZ, do things might be needed. Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, this was only was this, correct me if I'm wrong out there, guys, but was this only open to members of ApiNZ, or was it open to every beekeeper that produces honey? I couldn't find anything to say it wasn't. So.
It just said that it was beekeepers who had more than 26 hives and were commercial, I think.
Okay, so it was open only to commercial beekeepers and probably only people that was an ApiNZ, which is only a small percentage of beekeepers, isn't it?
Mm.
Anyway, here's a quote from the article. It's no secret that there is not the outcome I or the board wanted to see. I believe it will set back the development of the honey industry, but I understand that at present commercial beekeepers are hurting with the erosion of honey prices and the result of oversupply of all floral types other than manuka honey. And who's that speaking?
It's
Bruce Wills.
Yeah, Bruce Wills. He is the CEO. Oh no, the chair.
Yes,
Sorry.
He's the chair. That's Karen's the CEO.
Okay, and he goes on to say, however, despite the outcome, the challenges and issues faced by the industry remain the same. Yes, things like overstocking, not enough food, then MPI changing criteria. Oh, there's just so much going on. Anyway, that's a good article to read, Guy, just to see where they're coming from. And you know, one of my questions in my head was who is ApiNZ?
Well, I think they're an industry body, but mainly focused on commercial beekeepers, aren't they?
Yeah, and so these bodies like the beekeeping, what's the other one?
New Zealand Beekeeping.
New Zealand Beekeeping, they want to create and influence, I think, some things that are going on with MPI. So I think that's the motivation. But anyway, if you want to find out who the people are in ApiNZ and what their roles are and what they are part of in their own, what they do, there's a link on the show notes and you can find out what their motivations are and what they do. So have a look at that, guys, and make your own conclusions.
Yes, and this levy was to charge beekeepers 10 cents per kilogram, whether they were manuka honey or honey producers or not. God, you can hear that rain, can't you?
It's heavy.
Sorry, guys, it is winter.
Yeah.
We have rain for weeks on end. It's all honey, eh? Every bit of honey.
Yeah, I think so. They wouldn't be able to get any money if they only do it for one or the other. I think they have to do both. That's my view anyway.
And I think the thing is there was no mention of how much this administration of this new fee was going to do, because the money was going to go to ApiNZ and what they were going to use it for. I mean, to me it seemed very vague.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't affect hobbyists at all, would it?
No, it wouldn't. And, you know, they never talked about what the issues are being faced by beekeepers. You know, it's all very well to make a broad statement like that, but you've got to have some backbone to it.
And it looks like almost half the people that were eligible didn't vote anyway. So what does that tell you?
Yeah. There was 1,734 eligible, but only 1,057 votes.
Oh, so that proves it then. It is only ApiNZ members could vote.
Yeah.
Because there's more than 1,700 beekeepers in New Zealand.
Indeed. There's how many thousand? 8,000 now or something?
Oh, at least 8,000.
Yeah, and it was always people who had 26 hives or more, and they voted no.
Yes, indeed. I guess you guys need ApiNZ, if you're listening, probably not, and just maybe you need to start, giving better messages out there to people.
Yeah, I think it's all very well having a questionnaire or something, but I think that means that they're not ready. People are just not ready, and it has been tough, you know. But there is some feedback that we got, Gary. So Robert McGuinness says he reckon it sends a clear message, and I agree with that.
Indeed. And John Thompson says, is New Zealand importing foreign honey? Is it compatible with the locally produced honey? What about fake honey coming to New Zealand? Well, that's not happening, is it? And Kiwi Mana responded.
Yeah, Kiwi Mana says, hi, John, it's illegal to import any bee products into New Zealand. Now, that's honey. That's wax and bees, isn't it?
Yep.
So, you know, there is no compatible honey because we only have our local produced honey that is used for only exporting and no imports of anything else. That's the
law.
That's the law. What goes on
behind closed doors, we don't know.
No, we don't know.
Anyway, by the way, ApiNZ are holding their annual conference in June in Rotorua. So if you want to attend or find out more about what will be covered in the conference, here is the link. And that's Apiculture Conference 2019.co.nz.
Yeah, so that'll be good. And it talks about what they're going to cover.
Some good speakers, eh?
Yeah, it should be good. Peter Reardon's going to be there.
Yeah, I think the most interesting person coming is Dr. Sammy Ramsey, and he's an international speaker, and he's the guy that did the research about varroa mites eating the fat of the bees, not the blood.
Oh, that was interesting, wasn't it? And we've kind of known that for quite some time now. Is John Berry going to be speaking?
I believe John Berry is speaking. He was interviewed on the podcast recently, wasn't he?
That's it. And so he'll be there too, putting his, views across. So that's awesome.
Oh, okay. And there's also going to be Reuben Stanley's going to be there. Interesting. And Don McLeod, some people we know. It should be interesting. So if you see John Berry, tell him you heard him on the Kiwimana Buzz. Yeah, tell him that you're part of the buzz. Okay, what's next, Gary? Feedback from you. Yes, you. Out there driving to work. Oh, what about the latest Q&A podcast we released? We're getting heaps of good feedback about that. People are liking it, eh? People are liking that, guys. So we may need to redo another one. Yeah, we'll have a look at that. So that'll be in the work in progress box, eh, Dale? Yes, and first up we heard from Graham Brown from Queensland. He said, thanks for your podcast. I listen every month from Queensland and Australia, and I totally love your recording. Oh, that's awesome, Graham. Awesome, Graham, and shout out back to you. Hope all is going well in Queensland as you guys also head into winter. Yes, indeed. And what we heard from Kerry, what did Kerry say? Kerry says, once again, a touching newsletter. Thank you, and you guys have a nice break. And look forward to your return. You guys are so awesome, and with your words of wisdom at always the right time really helps me. Take care and enjoy. Regards, Kerry. Thanks, Kerry. Thanks, Kerry. That's awesome. Yeah. It's always nice to get a bit of, feedback. It is, because sometimes you feel like you're just sitting here yelling into a vacuum, don't you? Oh, well, I don't. Why would you yell into a vacuum? Because that's what sometimes podcasting feels that way. Oh, okay. Okay, so, and we've got another email here from Christine. What does Christine say? Christine says, hi, Margaret and Gary. Just want to say thanks for all your insights into beekeeping. It helps me lots with managing my bees. The biggest help for me so far is your explanation on how to make space for the queen in spring so she won't swarm. I had years of swarm issues. Your information and detailed explanation helped me to make it stop. Awesome. Yeah, the oxalic acid vaporizer treatment's also very welcome, and lots of other warnings, advice and tips that were really helpful. So many thanks. Cheers, Christine. Oh, thanks, Christine. That is fantastic. We'd just like to say a special thank you to Christine, who made a very kind donation to us, and she says with that donation that she just wants to say thanks for all your insights into beekeeping. It helps me a lot with managing my hives. Well, thanks, Christine. That is awesome, and we really appreciate your donation and your feedback. Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, we really appreciate hearing feedback because it makes it all worthwhile. Thanks, Christine and Kerry and Graham. Cheers, guys. Thank you. Okay, we're moving to the end of the show. Who helped us bring this show to you? Thanks for listening to our show, and thanks to all our supporters who support us through the Patreon service. This week we would like to thank Greg Parr, Nathan Buzzinger Beekeeper, Carolyn Sloan, Chris Palgrave, John Paff, Karen Shields, Christopher Brown and Laura, Robin O'Connell, Cameron Mishkin, Barbara Weber, Tony and Hazel Lum, Mandy Shaw, Lisa Morrissey, Malcolm Sanford, Dan McGivern, Daniel Bokros, Tim Wilcox, Sana Wynne Lewis, and Finn's Bees, Michelle Lachey, Gutney Hunter, Irene Townshend, Trish Stredden, and Buzzed Honey's Humane Bee Relocation. Oh, thanks to you all. You're all amazing. Yeah, thank you, guys. Awesome. What else, Gary? Okay, congratulations to Cameron from New South Wales. He's reached the reward level and a Kiwimana cap is on its way. So that's coming to you soon, Cameron.
Awesome. Congratulations, Cameron. Awesome, awesome, awesome.
And we've got a new supporter. Sana Wynne-Lewis from the Hawke's Bay. She's become a new supporter. Thanks, Sana. That is fantastic.
And welcome to help creating the Kiwi Mana buzz.
We appreciate all our supporters, and it's awesome and fantastic. Thanks, guys.
Awesomeness bananas. And as we head off now, is there anything you'd like to say to the crew that helps us produce all this?
Thanks, everyone, for being supporters, and we really appreciate all your help through the season. And we'll be back next season.
Yes, and we'll be quietly whittling away in there doing some work, and you'll be hearing from us, that's for sure.
Yeah, we hope to be back in August. We'll see what happens.
But if you too love what we do and you found something useful, we'd really love if you could help us and help us produce some more content. So we offer you the benefits of a warm heart so you will sleep better at night knowing that you are helping the beekeeping community. And we also do other things with the support that we get, making videos and blog posts, and also looking after the beekeeping Facebook forums that we run. So why not join us today at
kiwi.bz/banana. That'd be awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay, the show notes for this show are kiwi.bz/144. So the show's over, Dale. Got any closing thoughts?
Yes, well, there's nothing that changes like the weather, and I'm looking out the window now, and everything is sparkly with the water on top of it, and the sun is shining very bright. So goodness knows what we're getting in the next 5 minutes.
Probably more rain.
So that's what we're dealing with, guys, as we head into winter, and the fire's on, and we're going to go and have a nice cuppa.
Absolutely. So thanks, guys, for listening throughout the bee season, and we will be returning in August, and we will see you all then. And you wrap up warm, and maybe we'll even see you at one of the beekeeping conferences coming up, eh?
Yeah, and those who are in the hot sun, keep hydrated and don't work your bees without having lots of water around.
And if you see us out and about at a conference, don't be scared to come and say hello, because we're scared, but you don't have to be.
Thanks, guys. You guys are awesome bananas. See ya. I'm going to miss them.